Welcome to Random Movie Reviews. I'm Nathan, and today I'll be talking about Superman. So the last video I did for this channel was me talking about Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, probably the most notorious Superman movie. And in that review, I mentioned that I had not yet watched the latest James Gunn Superman movie. Well, that all changed today. Let's get this out of the way now. Just got done watching the James Gunn Superman movie, and holy shit, I absolutely loved this movie. Now, it may not be a perfect movie. I mean, obviously, the online discourse with this movie has been pretty contentious and flat out embarrassing, with how many people actively want this movie to fail and insulting people who like this movie. And it's really quite odd. Obviously, this is coming from one particular demographic, the Snyder Bros. I have said on this channel numerous times, I don't have a problem with Zack Snyder personally. I'm not a fan of him as a filmmaker. And when it comes to his version of Man of Steel, I'm sorry, but I absolutely hated Man of Steel. Doesn't mean that I hate Henry Cavill, or that I hate Zack Snyder, or that I hate people who love that movie. By all means, if you love it, good for you. But for me, and for a lot of Superman fans, quite frankly, Man of Steel felt like an anti-Superman movie.
A core value of Jonathan and Martha Kent is that they encourage Clark to use his powers to help people. But in this movie, Jonathan Kent tells Clark that he should have let children die as opposed to revealing his powers.
What was I supposed to do? Just let him die?
Maybe.
What the fuck?
Like, everything that the character is meant to represent, how he's portrayed, his relationship with his parents, specifically his father, Jonathan Kent, instilling the values of what makes Superman an important hero and why he needs to do good. Man of Steel does the opposite of all of those things.
Well, first they demolish Smallville, completely destroy Smallville, and then they completely destroy half of Metropolis.
I'd say more than half.
It is like 9/11 times 100. Superman's not a hero in this movie.
He doesn't actually save any of these people.
No, he doesn't even seem to notice or care.
How people can defend Man of Steel and say it's a good representation of Superman is like, I don't understand that argument, but you know, to each their own. And outside of Henry Cavill, who certainly looks like Superman, his performance isn't that great either. He's not likable. He's not like sympathetic as a character. There's no relatability there. And if you read Superman comics, like this one, for example, my favorite Superman comic, Superman for All Seasons, Superman is actually a very relatable character, and there's a lot of allegory about, trying to find your place in the world and things of that nature. And so that's something that has been missing with Superman for me, especially in terms of like what the DCU was originally, with all of those Zack Snyder movies and Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman was okay. Didn't see the Aquaman movies, but like, that whole universe was just so rushed and so poorly put together that it needed to kind of end. It needed to end because it wasn't going anywhere good. We needed a fresh do-over. And so with James Gunn's Superman movie, this movie not only operates as a Superman movie, but it's also the starting point for what we're going to see James Gunn do with the DC Universe. In my personal opinion, it's in pretty much perfect hands. Now, because this movie's still in theaters, I won't get too spoilery, but I am going to mention some spoilery stuff towards the end of this video. I'll make sure to let people know before I do that. But, oh my god, man, just everything that I really want a modern Superman to be, that's what this movie is. I mean, let's get the performances out of the way, because I'm going to be gushing about nearly everything in this movie. I'll get into some nitpicks here and there, but honestly, I just fucking loved this movie. The cast is so good. I mean, Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor, Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane, and of course David Cornsweet as Superman. I mean, the three core characters that hold this movie together, perfectly cast. David Cornsweet as Superman. I mean, he has that classic kind of like Christopher Reeve elements in terms of just how much he cares about human life and how nice he is to people.
Here you go, miss.
Gee, thanks, mister. He's such a naughty cat. I always tell him not to.
Oh, well, hold on now. Let's not be too hard on Frisky, okay? You know something? We all get a little afraid of heights now and again.
But there's also some new elements in a cinematic Superman that you haven't really seen before. There's some more humor stuff in there, which I know some people didn't really care about the humor in this movie. I thought in terms of the comedic beats, they all landed really, really well. And before I get too much into all the stuff that I really enjoyed about this movie, I should mention that before I saw this film, I kind of got stuck in the rabbit hole of seeing YouTube reviews of Superman. I don't typically do that with newer movies, but because this movie was getting very polarizing reviews in certain circles, I was just curious to hear a lot of people's takes, and I went down the rabbit hole of people. Literally, there are YouTube videos saying this is the worst movie ever made. No, this isn't, like people saying, oh, this isn't just the worst Superman movie. This is the worst movie ever made. Like, that's how much people hate a Superman movie, which is like really weird. Like, I don't think Man of Steel is the worst movie ever made. I think it's maybe the worst Superman movie in terms of what the character is supposed to symbolize. I think the movie does a terrible job at that, but I don't think it's the worst movie ever made. There have been a lot of disingenuous reviews about this movie. Now, that's not to say that people have to like this movie. I mean, obviously it's a movie. Opinions will vary. I can understand why some people wouldn't like this movie. It is very colorful. It's very comic book in spirit. It doesn't take itself too seriously, although there are moments where the movie does take itself seriously and it feels genuinely earned and really well executed, in my opinion. We'll get into that. But there's just been a lot of disingenuous reviews that purposely misrepresent this movie, and it goes against like objective reality in many ways. Like, for example, I heard numerous reviews of people saying, oh, every dramatic moment in this movie is undercut with a joke. That's just untrue. It's not even a matter of opinion. In fact, there's a scene in this movie that was shocking how dark it got, because like while the movie was fairly light tone throughout the film, there are dramatic beats that pack a punch. And one scene in particular with Lex Luthor, spoiler alert, he ends up executing somebody in front of Superman, and Superman, who is also dealing with kryptonite poisoning, is crying, and it's a shocking moment because like, oh shit, this Lex Luthor is fucking evil, which is great. Nicholas Hoult is so awesome at, capturing that over-the-top spirit of a evil comic booky villain. I think it fits perfectly within the rest of the tone of this movie. But that scene in particular is a scene that stands out, and it's not undercut with a joke. That scene, like, you sit with that scene for a little bit. It's like, damn. And there are a few other moments in the movie where it kind of tugs at your heartstrings, and it isn't undercut with a joke. So I realize James Gunn has that reputation. I mean, that was one of my problems with Guardians of the Galaxy 2, was that there were a lot of dramatic beats in that movie that were undercut with a joke, and it was like every dramatic beat, nearly every single one. So in that movie, it's a legitimate complaint. Here, like, if you don't find the comedic elements in this movie funny, that's fine. Personally, this movie got a couple of really big laughs out of me, and there wasn't any point where I found the comedy to be annoying, really. And it matches the tone of the movie. It knows when to take itself seriously, and it knows when to throw in a good joke every now and again. So that part of the movie, some people might have an issue with. I didn't have an issue with it. But people saying that there are no serious moments in this movie is like, that's just objectively untrue. One of the other complaints that feels somewhat disingenuous is that Superman gets his ass beat the entire time in this movie. Now, while it's true that Superman is very vulnerable in this movie, and there are moments where he's getting beat up and like it adds drama to the movie, what was funny is nobody who was talking about it, like in a critical sense, saying, oh, he gets his ass beat. They failed to mention why he was getting his ass beat. Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's because he's fighting a clone of himself who is as equally powerful. So it's not like he's getting his ass beat for no reason, or that it doesn't make sense. Like, it makes sense within the context of the movie. But I saw so many reviews of people saying, oh, Superman gets his ass beat the whole time, and they don't happen to bring up the fact that he's fighting a clone of himself, or he's not at 100% strength. So it's like, that's a disingenuous review where it's like, he gets his ass beat. Sure, he's getting his ass beat by someone who's the same strength as he is, but I didn't really like it. Like, if they worded it like that, it's like, okay, that's fair. But I saw so many reviews that purposely left out really important parts of information as to why certain things happen the way that they do in this movie. One of the other complaints I heard is that Superman gets sidelined in his own movie. I don't think that's true at all. This movie does introduce the Justice Gang. And by the way, I did a reaction hybrid video talking about the Superman trailer when it dropped. I'll link it in the description below. I mentioned in that video that I was kind of nervous at the idea of too many characters being in a Superman movie. But honestly, as I was watching the movie and as the movie established that, Superman's kind of 3 years into being Superman, and this world is already familiar with metahumans and stuff like that. It didn't feel that overstuffed to me personally. And every little character in the Justice Gang, there's a great ongoing joke about that, which is Guy Gardner, Hawk Girl, and Mr. Terrific. We'll talk about Mr. Terrific, a big highlight of the movie. At no point do they feel like they're sidelining Superman's main story. I mean, Superman is without a doubt the main focus of this movie. And each one of those characters gets a standout scene, which is awesome. With Guy Gardner, gets a lot of great funny moments come from Nathan Fillion, who is a James Gunn regular, and he's fantastic in this movie. Hawk Girl probably gets the least amount of screen time, but even she gets a moment to shine, and she was really enjoyable to watch. Mr. Terrific is the one that really stands out the most. I, like a lot of people, was not familiar with Mr. Terrific, never heard of him until this movie, and he's just so great. The performance was fantastic. He gets a really standout, memorable action sequence. But none of them outshine Superman, not in my opinion. Superman is the main focus of this movie. He gets the main big epic moments throughout the film. So that's just if people feel like he gets sidelined in his own movie, I disagree with that opinion. And when it comes to Superman's portrayal in this movie overall, I think James Gunn does an excellent job portraying the humanity and hope and optimism in Superman. And David Cornsweet's performance just highlights all of those qualities. Knows when to take the character seriously, knows when to throw some good lighthearted comedic moments in there, knows when to show Superman being a complete and total badass, which we see so many great scenes towards the last act of this movie that feel genuinely epic with the action sequences and Superman overcoming these great obstacles and battles. And it just feels like the classic Superman through the lens of a modern superhero movie that I've kind of always wanted / needed. And in many ways, I think the reason I love this movie so much is because it's kind of the anti-Man of Steel. It goes against all of the really bad and stupid habits that movie has with, making Superman being brooding and depressing and kind of an asshole, as well as mindlessly murdering all the people in Metropolis callously due to his fight with General Zod, and not even going out of his way to rescue anybody in the process. I mean, there's a huge part in the last battle in the James Gunn Superman movie where the civilians are being evacuated from Metropolis before the chaos gets too out of control, and then Superman comes in, stops a building from falling on a innocent woman in her car and saves the woman. Like, there were so many scenes where Superman is checking on people, saving innocent civilians from getting hurt, whether it's a little girl or a woman about to be stepped by a giant kaiju. I mean, there's so much effort put into this version of Superman showing that he actually cares about humanity. I don't get any of that with Man of Steel, like none of it. Here's the silver lining with all this. For the people that hated this movie and you love Man of Steel, good news. You still got Man of Steel. You can rewatch that movie as much as you want. But for people like me, like a lot of Superman fans who were not a fan of Man of Steel, we didn't have a big version of a modern take on Superman, a big blockbuster version of that. Sure, we have the Christopher Reeve movies that are a lot of fun, but they haven't aged all that amazingly well. And now it's our time. It's our time to get a Superman who represents hope, who has a sense of humor, who goes out of his way to rescue a squirrel. I noticed a lot of Snyder Bros were giving Superman shit for rescuing the squirrel. That's my Superman. My Superman rescues squirrels. My Superman has to deal with a disobedient Krypto, which Krypto was so awesome in this movie. I know when he was shown in the trailer and it was announced he's going to be in the movie, some people are like, oh, I don't know, that might be too silly. But this is James Gunn. This is the guy who made you have a broken heart over a talking raccoon, for those who've seen the Guardians movies. Or made you care about a tree who could only say one word. Like, if there's any filmmaker that can make a crazy character like Krypto work, it's James Gunn. And that kind of goes into why I think James Gunn is the best superhero filmmaker today, because unlike a lot of his contemporaries, James Gunn is not afraid to get to the crazier, campier, sillier side of comic books and represent it in his cinematic world. One of the reasons why I loved the Suicide Squad so much is because he introduces Starro. For those who may not know, Starro is a character that was a starfish alien in the Justice League comics, and it's one of those comics that you would pick up and be like, you'll never see this in a movie because it's too ridiculous. But James Gunn's like, why can't we see that in a movie? These are comic book movies. We should represent the feeling and the absurdity and the creativity of comic books. And he fucking throws an alien starfish that can possess people with mini starfishes coming from its armpit. It's like, that's why James Gunn is going to be so awesome for the DC universe, because if you ever read DC Comics, they get fucking weird. And I'm ready. I'm ready for superhero movies to take big risks in showing us the weird, crazy side of comic books, and that being represented accurately in movies. So that's one of the big reasons why I love this movie so much, is because this feels like the cinematic equivalent of going into a comic book store, picking up a Superman comic. It's not the first issue, and you just kind of get lost in this world. You get thrown into it, which is what this movie feels like. Sure, you may not know every single origin of all these characters, but at the end of the day, it's a Superman comic, and you're going to find all of the stuff along the way. And I think that's why a lot of the movie's shortcomings that some people label it as, like the movie being too fast, having too many characters, that really didn't bother me, because I think I knew what James Gunn was doing, which is like, we're making a comic book come to life. And this is one of the most comic booky movies we've had, like, ever, which is crazy, because superhero movies have been around for a long time. Only a small handful of them, in my opinion, actually feel like the pages of a comic book. This is one of those movies. So I realize this is kind of one of my messier reviews. Like I said, I just got done watching this movie. I can't wait to see it again. I'm probably going to get even more out of it on the second time, but this is just my very rough, kind of chaotic thoughts on a movie that I'm just kind of head over heels for. So that's my thoughts on James Gunn's Superman, but I would love to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts on this movie? Do you like it? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Mention it in the comments below. I do ask for everybody to be respectful. If you disagree with me, that's fine. But let's not. I'm basically calling out the Snyder Bros. If you guys try to infiltrate my comment section and you be outright dicks, you're getting hidden from this channel. It's just going to happen. But I think we can have a reasonable discussion about a Superman movie and get a good discourse going. So anyway, that's my thoughts on this movie, and thank you guys for watching.